I was very heavily concussed after I made passionate love to somebody's passenger side window on my little scooter. And I do not remember any of this, but I apparently did not want to get on the ambulance. And so I was fist fighting the EMTs. I guess like aggression is a thing with concussions. Yeah, that was me. Heavily concussed, broken wrist, physically brawling the EMTs because I did not want to get in the ambulance. And I remember none of it. Although, you know, there is more to the car accident story specifically that I didn't go too into detail on because I was worried. Because, like, I've got friends who were in, like, really bad car accidents and it kind of traumatized them and they really don't like hearing about car accident stuff. And so I kind of avoided it for that video. There is more detail to that story, actually. More just, like, a fucking silly nonsense. Like, it was a nightmare. It was a bad thing that happened. And I'm still sad that it happened and upset. But also... at the same time, when I came out of the concussion, the first thing I asked my roommate to do, who was standing in the So first of all, so what happened is that I got in a really bad scooter accident when I was in college. I had a scooter that I rode to class every day, and at some point I was on my scooter and a guy did not stop at a stop sign and cut me off, and I plowed into his passenger side door, essentially, going like 50 miles an hour on my little beep beep scooter. I do not remember any of it. I remember driving down the street, and I remember looking at the ceiling in the MRI machine. And then I remember like going down the hallway. I'm on a stretcher and I'm being wheeled down the hallway and I'm just like looking up at the ceiling and I'm hearing people talk and I'm babbling and I'm like trying to ask people what's going on. And I did at one point cuss out the doctor, because apparently what had happened was I kept asking the same questions over and over again because I couldn't retain any information because of the concussion. And so at some point they just stopped talking to me. They were like, she's just asking the same questions over and over again. We're not just going to keep talking to her because she's still very heavily concussed. And I remember one of the first things I said when I came out of my concussion was, will someone tell me what the fuck is going on? And I just remember hearing one of the doctors go, oh, that's new. It's like, oh, she's gained some new vocabulary. How in character is that, right? So then what happens is I guess it was a really busy night at the ER. So they couldn't actually put me in a room. They just put my stretcher in a hallway. I was just in a hallway on a stretcher, heavily concussed, and they only let 2 people back there to visit me at a time. So there were 2 people back there with me. There was my roommate, Sarah, who is the same Sarah that I do my podcast with. My bestie. So she was there and she was obviously extremely freaked out. She was one of the first people they called when the accident happened, because I guess she was in my phone as my roommate, or like the school told them who to call or something along those lines. And there was a woman from the university there. There was a woman from the school who was just like, you know, there to make sure that they were not going to get sued and like that I was okay and they were not going to have the death of a student on their hands that day. And they were both standing over me and being like, I was kind of doing the same thing where I was like kind of repeating the same questions because I couldn't really retain anything. But eventually, once I was finally lucid enough to like maintain information, I turned over to Sarah. And important detail to note, up until this point, I had perfect attendance at school. I had never missed a class. I had never even been late to a class before. I was a junior in college. I had never missed a class. The one time I missed a class was I was on my way to class and I got hit by a truck. And so one of the first things I asked Sarah, I'm like, Sarah, did I miss class? And she's like, yeah, Star. And I was like, damn it. And then I was like, Sarah, I need you to take a picture of me and I need you to make it into one of those but you didn't have to cut me off memes. Because that's exactly what happened. And to her credit, she did. She took a picture of my like bloodied face with like 2 chipped teeth and a black eye. And there was like some dried blood on the side of my face. And she took a picture of me and she made it into a but you didn't have to cut me off meme. So that happened. That's an image that exists. And then what happened is Sarah said, hey, Star, your entire friend group is here. Like the entire group of like all of my friends who all live in the same dorm. And they're all here, but they're in the waiting room and they're not going to let everyone come back at the same time. But some of the friends like, you know, want to see you. They want to make sure that you're okay. Like they're really freaked out by this, but they can only let 2 people back here at the same time. And so Sarah was like, you know, if you want, I can go get someone and then let someone else come back. And I was just like, you know, I was kind of distressed. And so I'm like, like, no, Sarah, don't go. I love you. And she's like, well, okay. Nobody else can come back here unless I go. I didn't want Sarah to leave. So I looked at the lady from the school and I was like, can you leave? And she was like, no. I just, so fucking rude. But it's like, you're not my friend. I don't know you. Oh God, there was one other thing that happened. Oh yeah. So, you know, they were still worried because like at this point I was like capable of forming new sentences. I was remembering new information, but they were still like, you know, Sarah and the woman from the school and also me, like retroactively was very scared that like this had caused some kind of brain damage or something. Because, you know, I had a really bad concussion. It was like gnarly as hell. I slammed into a car going 50 miles an hour with nothing between me and the car but a dinky little helmet. Always wear your helmets, kids. I would have fucking died if I hadn't been wearing that shit. I don't think I still have it anymore. I think it got lost in the chaos of me moving at some point, but I kept that helmet. It had a bunch of road rash on it, but I kept it. I just covered it in stickers. It was a trophy of a grievous wound that I survived. But yeah, so at some point, one of the doctors comes over, is like, okay, everybody, how's she doing over here? And I think someone said something along the lines of, it's like, well, she's talking more now, but I'm still kind of worried she might still like have brain damage. Is she gonna be okay? And the doctor's like, hey, what's your social security number? And I'm like, 1, 2, 3, 4, but like actually, and he was like, yeah, she'll be fine. And he walks away. And I'm like, okay, cool. So yeah, some additional details on that story that I left out of that video, but little treat. That was just like, what a fucking adventure that was. Hated it. Was a terrible time for everyone involved. Scared the shit out of a lot of my friends. Was very upsetting thing that happened. Totaled my scooter. I haven't had a scooter ever since. Very scary. But you look back on it and it's like, okay, some of that shit that happened was really funny. You gotta focus on the funny shit or you will lose yourself to despair, you know? You gotta focus on the fact that I physically fought a bunch of EMTs. I said fuck you to the doctors that were treating me because they were ignoring me while I was concussed. I told the school representative to fuck off so that more of my friends could come back into the hospital and see me. And just the look she gave me, she was just like, no, I'm not leaving. It was so, just, again, horrible, awful situation. Some of that shit was funny though. But you didn't have to cut me up. No, you need to understand, this was in late 2012. This was at the height of that meme's popularity. Like, that was the most popular song on the radio when this happened. Everyone and their mom was obsessed with the "but you didn't have to cut me off" song. And then I got into a car accident because I got cut off in traffic. Was I supposed to not make a meme about that? Like, hello? There is actually also more to that story. The day after that story, there was gonna be a dance at the school that I was at. I forget exactly what the club was called, but it was like the school's like gay straight alliance. It was a club at the school, and every year they put on an event called the Gender Bender Ball, which was basically like you dress in drag and you party. And my car accident was the day before the Gender Bender Ball, and I was like, me and all my friends had been really looking forward to it, and it was gonna be hype, and we were excited. And then I go and get in a fucking car accident. I had a broken wrist, and I was fucked up. I had a black eye. I had like my 2 front teeth were chipped off, but I still wanted to go. And so what we ended up doing was, this was also around the time that Gravity Falls was like super popular because it was in the process of being released. This was like when the first season was coming out. And I still, you know, really wanted to go. And so me and all my friends were like, well, okay, Star has a black eye. What if we make her an eye patch and then she can be Grunkle Stan? And then we all just dress up like Gravity Falls characters. And then me and my entire group of friends just like looked at each other and we were like, yeah, that'll do. And so in less than like, it just like the next day was a Friday and we didn't have school because SCAD only has classes on Monday through Thursday and Friday's supposed to be our studio day. And so we all just like huddled up in mine and Sarah's dorm room. And we all just made like really, really quickly put together gender bent Gravity Falls cosplay. So I was not Grunkle Stan, I was Grunty Fran, but I still had like the eye patch. I hand sewed that eye patch with one hand because my wrist was broken. And I made it out of pink sequin fabric because I thought it was fabulous. And I wanted a pink sequined eye patch. Looking back on this is so ridiculous. But yeah, and so then we went to the gender bender ball. We had a great time. And, you know, they had a contest at the end of the night. It was like their award show because everybody came to this thing in drag. And so they had to do a little contest at the end. I can't remember if this was the only one. I don't think it was. If I'm remembering right. Leewalee's going to watch this clip later and like mentally think that's not what it was. But I remember, I think there was more than one like award. There was maybe like most elegant or something like that. I don't remember. But the one I cared about was they had a hot mess contest. And they were like, we need to crown the hottest mess of the night. And so they got all these people up at the front who, it was like kind of a self like volunteer is like, yeah, I'll qualify. I'll get up at the front. And it was the type of thing where it's just like, you just like hold your hand up and then everybody cheers for you if they think you should win. And like, I was not like necessarily dressed like a hot mess, but I literally had a black eye and I was kind of hobbling around and I had a cast on my arm. And so when it came to be my turn to be like, hey, why do you think you should win the hot mess contest? I was just like, I got hit by a truck yesterday and I didn't win. I didn't win, but you know, it's whatever. I left not long after that because I was tired and my legs hurt. I was just kind of generally achy. I was still very high on pain meds when I was there. I only stayed like an hour. A friend of mine was actually like, he was running this dance. He was like running the show and he apparently had heard, he's like, what do you mean Star got hit by a truck yesterday and she's here? And apparently, like, I think I ran into him at some point during that night and he's like, what are you doing here? You got hit by a truck and went to the hospital yesterday. I'm like, well, yeah, but Mikey, I want to dance. I want to dance. Bless him. Oh, man. What a time. What a time of it. I remember the year following that. My senior year, I actually skipped the gender bender ball because something else got in the way. Just the gender bender ball, something always happens. My junior year, I got hit by a truck the day before. My senior year, I had to drive a friend to the ER that night because they ate a bad burger and had an allergic reaction because the place didn't put all of the allergens on the menu. It was Leewale, actually. Hi, Leewale. I hope you don't mind I'm telling this story. But Leewale, like, I guess the restaurant, like, changed the recipe of this one burger and they added like sesame flour or something to it and did not reflect it in the menu, and Leewale is allergic to sesame. And like, you know, used their EpiPen, did all that stuff. But, you know, I'm like in my apartment trying to get ready for the gender bender ball. Like I've got a wig on, I'm doing my makeup, I'm doing like contour to look more masculine. I've got like pajama pants and a button up shirt on because I'm like in the process of getting dressed. And I hear a knock at my door. I go answer it and I see that it's Leewale and they're looking very distressed. Like, Star, I think I'm having an allergic reaction. I think I need a ride to the hospital. I was like, oh my God, are you okay? Leewale was like, yeah, I think I need to go to the doctor. And I was like, yeah, hang on, I'll drive you. And they said something like, but if you take me to the hospital, you're gonna miss the gender bender ball. And I literally looked at them, ripped the wig off my head, threw it across the room and said, we're going to the hospital. We're going to the ER right now. Get in my car. Oh, man. College was certainly a time. And so, yeah, that's the story of how I missed the gender bender ball that year because I spent the evening in the hospital waiting room, half in drag. Half in pajamas, half in drag. Leewale was fine. But, you know, just the gender bender ball versus medical emergencies. Yup! Hey, Leewale, if you want to, if this ends up being a clip and you want to put a tirade on the screen about how stupid companies are for continuing to put sesame allergens in their food, feel free.
Okay, so in 2023, sesame was added to the list of federally recognized common allergens in the United States. What this means is that food manufacturers need to disclose it specifically on labels, i.e. it can't be generalized under spices, and adhere to certain standards to keep their equipment free of cross-contamination. A staggering majority of bread manufacturers thought this sounded like too much trouble, and so they started adding trace amounts of sesame flour to their recipes, because if it's supposed to be there, then it doesn't count as cross-contamination. This means that if you have a severe sesame allergy, a loaf of sliced white bread from the grocery store can now potentially kill you. There are safe breads, but they can be expensive or otherwise difficult to find. So I mostly make my own bread now.
I know you're very passionate about that, and you should be, because it's fucked up. Anyway, where's my water? I don't mean to laugh. Life is strange, isn't it?